Well, folks, if you have come to see Autoliv talk about best practices around supply chain risk management, you are in the right place. And I guess the place to start is just to introduce our panelists. So let's start with Klaus. Klaus, maybe you could tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes, first of all, Steve, thank you for having me with you here. And yeah, I'm Klaus. I'm 48 years old. I'm married. I'm father of two lovely teenage daughters, and I'm working since 21 years for Autoliv. After I graduated in business economics from the University of Hamburg, actually close where I'm living today, I joined Autoliv. In my career, I was responsible for strategic procurement and also managed for several years operational business and purchasing in Germany, Switzerland, Austria. Also, in between, I had been able to move to Sweden. So I lived 3 years, 2006 to 2008, close to Gothenburg, and managed our Scandinavian supplier base, plus some global projects. When I was coming back, I focused for some years on our service part procurement in Europe, and also was responsible for the global contract management. Early 2020, I was then asked by our top leadership team to build up the supply chain resilience. So to develop and build a supply chain risk management that we see today.
Thank you, Klaus. Now, Jan, we've known each other for some years. Some years ago, when you were the director of global purchasing and materials management at AGCO, the big global tractor manufacturer, you came and gave a speech at our forum. And it was really one of the best speeches really we've ever had. So Jan, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what has happened to you since you left AGCO.
Yeah, first of all, also thank you from my side for having me again. I truly enjoyed my 2 previous speeches that I did at the IRC forum. And thank you also for the credits. Yeah, actually, I left AGCO 2017 with a pretty heavy heart. I really enjoyed my time working for AGCO, living in Atlanta and leading some global transformation initiatives for AGCO for a couple of years. But I've decided I need to have a change in my life. And in 2017, I founded my own consulting firm called targetP. It's a procurement consultancy firm based out of Germany and Atlanta. So I still have some roots in the US then. And our team supports all kinds of global organizations and hidden champions in professionalizing their procurement and supply chain operations. And we do it globally, even if we are a pretty small firm. And this is what I really like, to work global, to work with different cultures. So right now I'm working out of Qatar, where I do help a large Middle East logistics and maritime service provider to transform their procurement operations, while at the same time we support Klaus and Autoliv building their supply chain risk management on a global level. And some people of my team are currently also working in the pharmaceutical industry, digitizing procurement operations. So basically, we focus on the fun stuff. We do what we always wanted to do, what we like. And this is probably also what distinguishes us from other companies in the procurement space.
Beautiful. I think the logical place to go now, Klaus, is perhaps you could tell me a little bit about about your company's global supply chain.
Yes, for sure. And I also brought some slides that we can share here. So Autoliv has a clear vision in saving more lives as the world's largest automotive safety supplier. So we combine several commercial supplier initiatives also around the world, as you can see here, and also reduce constantly our production costs on the topics. We develop constantly our supplier development and our supplier portfolio, as our suppliers are the essential partners for us to deliver the expected quality, innovation, and cost that we and the customers expect at the end. We are in the global automotive sector, which is a fast-paced environment with high customer requirements, as I say, for cost, innovation, and quality. And Autoliv is as impacted as anybody else at the moment by the turbulences in the market, but we have a strong team globally to fight these crises and help with our supply chain management approach at the end to be a little bit better.
And Jan, perhaps you could tell me a little bit about your consulting firm.
As I mentioned before, targetP is a pure procurement consulting firm, and we are located again out of Berlin and Atlanta. What we do probably slightly different is the entire team is built out of practitioners. So we all have a strong procurement and supply chain background on digital procurement, on compliance and sustainability, as well as supply chain risk management matters, as well as transformation and restructuring. And this is basically what we do. And this is also how we approach supply chain risk management. And this is also how we work with Autoliv. First of all, we strongly believe that supply chain risk management is not a project or a tool. It's really a competency, a capability that each and every organization these days has to develop. And secondly, and this is a little bit what frustrates me these days, digital solutions are not out there to fix certain problems. They are a lever, a support to fix these problems. And we see lots of companies investing in digital procurement solutions, and they are hoping for a better world, or they're hoping for less problems, but that's not the case. So what we do is we connect the old world and the new world, which means that we connect the non-digital part of risk management, which means policies, processes, operating models, governance frameworks, educated and trained people on one hand. And on the other hand, we help companies to get more digital so that they can support and monitor their supply chains 24/7. And what we do basically is we merge these two worlds. We bring them together to a one comprehensive supply chain risk management approach. And this is actually what we do also with Autoliv. And this is where we believe risk management really becomes effective and a strong tool in achieving supply chain resilience.
So Klaus, you've embarked on a voyage to improve supply chain risk management at your company. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about the impetus for this.
Yes. I mean, all of us, knowing at least being in the business for a certain while, have learned in events like Fukushima, for example, in 2011, how fragile global supply chains could be. So we have already a very good and effective crisis management team that we can build and rely on. However, end of 2019, even prior to COVID, we decided to step up due to the new technologies and service providers in the market to do a better risk management. And here we understood clearly that we had to forge all the multiple initiatives that we have to forge a powerful approach to be more efficient and to utilize our resources in a better way. Last but not least, also we're facing increased customer requirements in this area, and they're asking us to show the supply chain resilience, because nowadays you compare supply chains and not single suppliers with each other. And we, as mentioned, as the largest automotive safety supplier in the world and being at the forefront of this industry, we strive to become, or are already, ahead of the competition when it comes to risk management now. For us, the innovative solutions in supply chain risk management become the competitive advantage. We 100% believe in that.
So innovative solutions, perhaps you could talk a little bit about how you have done what you've done.
Yes. I mean, we joined forces with leading technology providers that have been able to give us supply chain monitoring, early risk detection, and enable us to make a professional crisis and case management. So we assembled some bright minds in our own company with experience in crisis and issues, together with targetP, to forge and build together at the end, helping to have a comprehensive and innovative supply chain risk management approach. But before talking too much here, I can show a video that gives a good overview about and the explanation about the processes, and have a comprehensive overview about what we're doing.
A primary objective of Autoliv's supply chain risk management function is to provide the organization with industry-leading tools to help identify, evaluate, monitor, and mitigate risks across the supply chain. Our supply chain risk management solution provides comprehensive coverage, ranging from early identification of supplier financial instability to immediate notification of regulatory violations to a port delay. All risks for monitored suppliers are considered: natural hazards, supply disasters, regulatory risks, cybersecurity, political instability, and financial risks, to name a few. The integrated risk management platform covers risks from many sources and can flag breaches within compliance, suppliers that are part of sanction lists, and even financial health of unlisted companies. The AI-powered software automates and accelerates threat detection so we can be even more risk-aware, react faster, and manage risks more proactively. We gain visibility into our supply network by digitally mapping out our entire supply chain. All comes together in our risk dashboard, a centralized view highlighting where we need to address negative trends. We detect vulnerabilities among all our suppliers and take the necessary measures to decrease the impact of risk.
Okay.
Well, fabulous. Yeah. So you had a project to put in this digital technology to make your process better. But, you know, no enterprise project ever goes flawlessly. Perhaps you could talk about some of the people issues, the process issues, the technology issues, during your journey.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for the technology, we had almost no technology that was able to monitor, automate our supply chain and how to identify the risks in our global supply chain network. So we had to identify a good fit for us, finding a provider sharing also our vision, but able to meet the expectations we have. We wanted to have a 24/7 screening to understand all kind of risks we have. And here the special is that we want to have an ease of use digital ecosystem, which we call the garage. So this key player is, so to say, integrating all the external informations from the other providers, because we have contracted several providers, into this one system, into the garage, so that we have everything in one spot for the external detection and services. So finally, everything also had to match and meet our supply chain management ecosystem, because we're doing already digital supplier management, digital sourcing solutions, and so on. So we had to overcome this challenge, or we overcome this challenge together with our supply chain leadership team, our IT, and also the experience from the external providers in implementing such a tool.
No, I'm sorry, keep going, Klaus.
Yeah, and the second part of your question is about the people, right? So,
well, before we get to people, I just want to go back to technology. Yeah. So, having real-time risks surfaced in real time is a non-trivial technology. I think it's a very interesting technology. I don't know if either you or Jan can talk about how the solution manages to find these threats all around the globe and surface them so you can act on them. Jan, you're nodding your head. Do you want to describe the technology?
I can do that. Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, first of all, it's important that you really have an understanding about your supply base. So there is a need to have at least your master data in order and allow the tools to be active. Secondly, there are quite a few providers out there on the market that help you to really track your supply chains as well as your supply allocations. This is called geo-tracking, and they are also monitoring databases, free databases you have to pay for. They are monitoring logistics hubs around the world. So basically, you really need to understand and map your supply chain before these tools really can do what we want them to do. And this is what Klaus and the team did a lot when they started the project. They really made sure that master data is in order, and at the end of the day, they understand the locations of their suppliers. And once this is in place, and you just go with a tool, and then you pretty fast have a better understanding about what's, let's say, on Google, what's in the internet, what's in newspapers, what's coming from the databases, what's coming in the news. So, and with that, it will take you quite a bit of time so that the software can learn, that the algorithms can learn. But after a couple of weeks, you already see some fantastic results. And I can speak just from my history. We pretty early detected fires, earthquakes and such. And but this really requires that you work with a technology provider that is able to do this.
I mean, so talking about risk objects, right? So risk objects are either the suppliers, but also we screening, for example, Port of Shanghai, Port of Rotterdam, Port of Houston, to make sure there is no supplier and we are not located there, but we want to see if at these points something is in trouble, because this will have an effect on us, right? So then this fantastic, if you are a Panama Channel or a Suez Channel, we have seen issues, right? So we're spotting not just objects of suppliers, are also on geo mapping some interesting things. And as Jan said, our sources, and we put this in the garage, is not just a full internet screening of news and other kind of things. We also put other sources in to have a full social media screening, because some things you see nowadays on Twitter first or Facebook or something which you don't see internet. So this is what we call the garage, to put everything external together: internet, social media, suppliers, hotspots. So this is a little bit the background here.
Okay, so I'm going to sum it up. You map your supply chain, you map how goods flow through your supply chain, and you've got this amazing tool that is scraping hundreds of thousands of news sites, and you're gathering information from other sources as well. And they're surfacing real-time alerts that matter to your company.
Correct.
Fair?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Klaus, let's move on. I interrupted you. You were going to talk about people issues.
Yeah. You asked about the people and the processes. So for the people, I mean, nowadays, the supply chain management teams are swamped, right? So they have to fight different fronts. They have to cut costs. They need to find innovation. They have to chase parts. And certainly there are other hot topics popping up. I mean, we spend quite some time to increase education and training, involve global and regional leaders in this. We have trained actually more than 700 people live and on demand. We have adjusted our intranet, and we made a clear communication of this change, right? So, and of course, the current disruptions help to get acceptance and gain some traction. But the teams understood that how important this is to have at Autoliv is supply chain risk management for themselves in their roles and also for their career path. Because what we're doing here is not just following a trend. This is and will be a continuous change process, and this will never end. So for us, we strive to keep here the leading position by utilizing the innovations we see nowadays already from the smart technologies coming in. A special interesting area here will be the Tier X visibility. So the suppliers delivering our supplier, raw materials, surface treatments, and on these kind of things, because we want at the end even a deeper end-to-end transparency. And for the processes you asked for, here I have to admit that we're still working on it because it's a little bit more complicated to establish and to train. But we made clear that supply chain risk management can only work if we embed this into our core processes. And what does that mean? We adjusted our process framework and we enhanced our core processes like supplier management, new supplier approval and onboarding process, sourcing, resourcing, and also, last but not least, our strategic category management. It is clear that this, at the end, adds a little bit more complexity to the processes, but at the same time, it will pay off time and money over the course of time. So the team message is, in generally, as I mentioned, understood, but we will need some more training and mentoring to achieve the maturity level internally that we want. And this is my job as Global Supply Chain Risk Manager, Director and leader here, and also with my divisional risk managers. We are change leaders, change agents, subject matter expertise, or have subject matter expertise at the same time, and also working with our operations and strategic teams in the machine room at the same time.
Fabulous. Now, Jan, when you gave your presentation about AGCO's supply chain risk management program a few years ago, it struck me that, AGCO at that point in time was really ahead of the game. Would you say the best practices you guys had back then are still the best practices, or have things advanced? Are there new things that we need to pay attention to?
Probably I need to give you two answers. First of all, I still believe that the ECHO approach is a best practice or a leading approach. I'm still in touch with my old colleagues, and they also have spent quite some time developing it. And it's very comparable to what Klaus just described. However, what we see over the past few years is there is a strong evolvement in terms of technology to monitor supply chains, to monitor supply chain networks, but also things like ESG or compliance risk. And what Klaus and the team is doing right now, I strongly believe that this is now let's call it the new best practice, because we're talking about risk culture here as well. We're talking about an even stronger integration of people and capabilities that we have in-house. And I think there is quite some development currently on many areas. First of all, Klaus is thinking about integrating all contractual matters into this program. So whatever we know as contract management can be part of a comprehensive risk management approach. Secondly, and that's something where still lots of companies are struggling, is getting visibility on their tier end structure. So to really understand the suppliers of their suppliers. This is really something where we see development in technology. We see development in understanding that this needs to be done. Also that it's not only visibility, but also collaboration across the different tier levels. I think this is still a big weakness if it comes to supply chain risk management, which at the end also can lead to things like joint demand planning, joint demand management to reduce this famous bullwhip effect. We've seen that now many, many times over the past months during all the shortages and disruptions that lots of companies created this bullwhip effect because they never aligned with their suppliers or their sub-suppliers. And what we are currently working on with Autoliv, and this is also something I would call best practices, how to link internal data with external data. So performance data that we have about suppliers, data that we get from the supply chain organization, how can we understand correlations between what's coming from internal data and external data to even earlier predict risk. And this is what I would consider really best practice. And this is what we see in also in other companies that they're working on these different areas right now.
So I'm going to pick one thing out of there that I heard. I thought it was really interesting, right? But I have also heard about that problem of not just identifying who my tier one suppliers are, but who are the tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers that really matter. Did I hear you right that there's new technologies that make that, because that's a tough process. There's new technologies that make that easier?
There is new technology out there. I know from several firms that are engaging in the supply chain risk and supply chain management space that they are trying to visualize this tier end structure. However, we need to be really realistic on that. First of all, companies have tried to achieve that already 10, 15 years ago, but mainly they failed because it's really a huge workload. You really need to motivate your partners to open their books, to become part of this ecosystem. And my hope is that now with all the supply chain disruptions that we have seen the last few weeks and months, that companies are opening up their minds and that they are willing to become part of this ecosystem. And yes, I've seen personally a few solutions where people really try to map this entire supply chain down to the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 level. The good thing is more and more regulations are coming out. You know, conflict minerals from the US, which has been put in place many years ago. Now we see in Germany a similar law coming up. In Europe, there are some legal initiatives going on. All this will help companies to drive this tier end visibility and will also probably drive those ones that are not willing to open their books now with all the legislation coming out. So I think we are again bringing things together that were not together in the past. For one hand, people are willing to become part of the ecosystem, and technology that is able to create that transparency within the ecosystem.
Okay. Klaus, you know, when you engage on a journey like this, investing in new technology, heavy lifting around training your people, new processes, you do it because you want some benefits. Risk management's tough, though. I mean, I could be wrong, but it strikes me that it might be tough to quantify savings in the risk management area.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, customer appreciation, increased trust in our supply, in us and our supply chain is very difficult to quantify in numbers and dollars and euros, but it's equal important to us. The same applies to risk awareness for the whole organization Autoliv, and especially here to the supply chain management team. And this is the essential factor to the success. We feel that the training and money we pay into this, or we invested into this, is paying off now every day. So in the communication we have with the internal teams, in the communication and questions we get from the OEMs. Also very hard to quantify at the end is a very fast end-to-end transparency, because the time to mitigate the impact from a fire at a supplier through the production plant at Autoliv to the OEM and car line for us is a game changer to secure our operations and also make sure that we can deliver in a flawless delivery to the customer the products. So yes, you're right. It's a little bit difficult in total to quantify.
Right. So where next? Where are you taking your risk management program next?
Yeah. So what we said, and this is where the things come together a little bit. What also Jan described is to connect all the different sources of data into a so-called control tower. So with our friends internally in supply chain management, we focus our initiative, which is the digitalization of supply chain. So you need to digitalize everything. Otherwise, if you have it on paper somewhere, it's difficult to use in the machines, right? So therefore also supply chain risk management is a top priority for our supply chain leadership team. And having related analytics will create a deeper transparency. Having transparency will generate the ability to see severe or predictable risks upfront and in time to become proactive or to be proactive. Data quality is the essential prerequisite to feed the machine here, right? So if you have not reliable data in your own systems to connect to the partners, that is very difficult. So we initiated some measurements and KPIs to guarantee at the end a seamless use of the data in the systems. Just an example is the supplier contract, right? So people just change jobs. So that means you need a reliable contact, a real contact to use in an automated and more system-driven communication. So if it comes to issues, is there a fire? And if you want to reach out to the person, if you not have the right email address, it will not work. So we aim to have all the risk in supply chain more transparent and remove all the silos. We want in this control tower a one-stop shop to give the responsible colleagues easy to consume overview to become proactive and working proactive on the risk we detect. Also, we're working on our internal supplier board where we try to utilize performance metrics and put them into perspective. So finally, we combine all the external risks and services that we detect with the internal risk-related data and consolidate everything in the control tower for the overview, while you have in the control tower the link to the source of data.
So, Klaus, I'm trying to visualize who works in the control tower. Is it the main people? Are they procurement analysts, procurement managers? Do supply chain planners participate in the control tower? Who are the primary people working there, and who else has visibility to what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, you can give also people, other colleagues and other stakeholders like compliance and so on. So also the chance to get into the control tower and put their view into this, right? So the control tower for the procurement guy looks maybe a little bit different than for the in between logistic, supplier quality, purchasing, and so on. So you can make your control tower, but the aim is to have in the morning when you come in and have your cappuccino that you see on your control tower what is important for you. So where are the risks? What is your saving levels and all this, so that you have on the control tower the one view to have everything you need, and from there you can drill down into the different systems and have a live digital connected link to this, and not going to the next Excel file and open another file here or opening another service provider, so that you have everything centralized and from there you can drill down wherever you like.
Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's just imagine something really strange, like a huge ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal.
Yes.
And you've got a ship that you want to come through the Suez Canal. So you got a risk. It's visible in the control tower. Then what? Who does what?
I mean, not going too much into the details, but if you see there is Asian suppliers and using shipments via different, like port of Shanghai, whatever. So you see the different supplier paths, right? So you see from Asia through the Suez Canal to port of Marseille, or around then to Rotterdam or wherever. So you can see these change, and you have transport management systems. So that say, okay, on these ships, and there is tracking. So that you say, okay, on this ship are 55 containers, and these 55 containers is this and that. So, and if you see the alert in the Suez Canal, you see, okay, that this is a supplier path affected. You see what is before or behind that alert or the ships. And then you can see, okay, what is in there. And then you can put the relation between, okay, these parts coming from these suppliers should ending up in Rotterdam, going to these facilities at Autoliv, being assembled to these finished goods and going to these OEMs. So if you have connected the data, you can see while the fire is ongoing or while the ship is stuck, already the connections in the chain, right? And your options to mitigate, saying, oh, maybe there's a second source, or we use put this on train or on flights. But if you need 2 weeks to figure out where I am affected by this, then every other train is booked and yeah, whatever aircraft is already gone, and so that's time is money here.
Right. Yeah. And you know, if you can react quickly, probably you're reacting quicker than your competitors. You probably, the path to mitigation is quicker.
Absolute. I mean, if you need to run for resources, if a raw material supplier is on fire and you don't know where to use this and how much you will need, and where you have alternative sources. I mean, Fukushima was a very good example, right? So in that area, you have seen specific components concentrated, and there had not been many other sources in the world to find. So, and if you are just 3 days ahead of your competition and calling the alternative supplier and say, hey, let's make a deal, that's a game changer.
Right. Well, we're getting, I think we've got time for one more question. So gentlemen, I'm going to give you both an opportunity to give your final thoughts on supply chain risk management.
Then I start first, if it's okay for you. First of all, I strongly believe that supply chain risk management will still grow. The importance of risk management will grow. If you follow media, if you follow surveys, if you follow your network, people talk about supply chain resilience now all day. And supply chain risk management is part of each and every supply chain resilience initiative. So I think lots of C-level people have learned about the importance of procurement and supply chain over the past 12 to 24 months. And that's why we are very, very positive if it comes to the development of supply chain risk management solutions, about business and supply chain risk management. The other thing before I would like to hand over to Klaus is what I also believe that the part so-called guided supply chain risk management will become more important. So people are really guided through the process. How do I manage a case? How do I manage a risk case, a risky situation? What are my next steps? So basically what people do right now in a more non-digital way, they will be probably guided by whatever robots, by tools, by systems, what to do when this issue is occurring. So that's what I expect in the next couple of years, or even in the next couple of months. Other than that, Klaus?
Yeah, I mean, for us, what we also will do more this year is to have an initiative to go more into discussions and showing the supplier base and giving them the understanding that this is something we need to do in partnership. It cannot be done by one in the complete supply chain. This will not fly. So we will need a lot more collaboration and support from them, because in the future, we will use much more digitalized and automated alert management. That means if the system in the Suez Canal is detecting something and you're still sleeping, maybe the system can send already a message and saying, dear supplier, are you affected? Yes or no, or fire or whatever, right? So, and this will need collaboration, understanding that we are a chain working together to do better. We just, as the single one in this chain, we cannot change the whole world. So we need the supply chain, our supplier base, to understand that. And another key word from Jan was teams. So teams is here very important, because supply chain risk management is and will be more a cross-organizational involvement that we will need with this supplying partners, with internal and external customers, to have the end-to-end view, right? So, and not just the cut out of the situation. I strongly believe that still the humans will be the critical and crucial factor here. But beside all this nice AI, machine learning, and so on, it's at the end still about the trust, the relationship management you have to do, empathy to the situation your partner is facing, and helping each other. So I strongly believe that any successful modern supply chain risk management will be determined by the fact how good you will be to link humans and machines.
Klaus, Jan, I'd like to thank you so very much for taking the time to share your insights with us. We're about out of time, and this is a pre-recorded session, but both Klaus and Jan have provided their email addresses. You can see it up there on the screen. If you have any questions, feel free to email them directly. And thank you to everyone that tuned in today. Thank you. Have a very good day.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.